Welcome to East Coast DNA. Your host Darcy Walsh here, and today we have two members of Fire Valley Fire. So Morgan and Justin.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes. Hello.
So who are the two missing members of the band, or am I counting wrong? I have three interviews today, and my numbers are getting mixed up.
No, you got it. It's Mike and Dan, the drums and guitar. Yeah.
Okay. And so now for you two, are you? Oh, 1 second. Sorry. Are you two original founding members of the band then?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, for sure.
We're all kind of founding members. There was like a brief, like maybe like a month or so. It was a very short period that Mike wasn't in the band.
Yeah.
But it was at the very beginning, and I can barely remember it now because it lined up with when I had my first kid. So Mike was
Sure.
in the band. Yeah.
So I did see your first album, Bring an Army, which I do remember when that came out, like 2017 though. Like that's
right.
a lot of the bands that I've been interviewing. There's a few that have been around for a while, but a lot of up and coming bands have been like the 2020s. But it does seem a lot of bands came out in 2017 and were a lot of rock bands, I guess. To simplify the genre anyway, there was a lot of rock bands that came out in our region in the 2017 era and had like an album and maybe a follow-up, and then everything hit the fan all around the world. And I'm starting to see now that some of these new bands have come out and there's all these places to play, I'm starting to see some of the other bands pop up with new albums, and you would be one of those bands. You just said your third album just came out in October?
Yeah, yes.
That's right.
So was there, I mean, we can go back a little bit to the beginning of the band, but I'm curious, was there a disruption or a down period, hiatus, however you want to phrase it, of the band? Anything to do with the pandemic, or you just the timing worked out?
Yeah, I don't think there was a downfall or any period where we weren't, considering still being a band. But there was just that period where it was hard to get together. We had an album we just released right at that time, which kind of sucked. You're putting out your second record, and all of a sudden you're jammed with a pandemic.
Yeah.
And then we had a lot of the third album. I would say half the third album we were already into at pandemic time. So just that put the brakes on a lot of things for a lot of people, and eventually we finally got through that and back on track.
Yeah, there was a few weeks I can remember where we like didn't jam, and then a few weeks where we jammed with masks, and then we just eventually just sort of went back to normal. We all stand in a corner of a room anyway. This is the closest Justin and I have been in a very long time. So
yeah.
And
actually, this was kind of birthed out of that because I was watching all the different variations of what people were trying to do, and then I found I was watching a lot of content similar to what I'm now creating.
So I forgot, you reminded me, I went through a weird period at the beginning of the pandemic where everyone was doing like remote covers. It was like, it'd be like the guitar player from some metal band and the drummer from some punk band doing a Rush song, and I became obsessed with that, and then I completely forgot I was obsessed with that, and that left my brain. Yeah, that's
we tried to stay busy though. We did a live performance at Sound Park Studios with Jamie. I think, was it CB Mike who put that on, or Nova Stream? I can't remember. Sorry, I apologize. But yeah, we did that. We tried to do a few shows that were pandemic kind of specific. When you looked at the audience, they had to sit and buy tickets, and so we kept it as busy as possible.
Yeah, that show was a bummer. We had a show where there was bouncers just sort of there to remind people to stay seated.
Yeah.
And took a little break after that one until it was more normal.
And you mentioned CB Mike there just briefly. I did notice in the notes, was your latest album CB Mike and ACOA funded?
Yeah, so CB Mike worked with ACOA for that funding. We were lucky enough to get a little grant, of varying degrees over the last 3 albums. We were really lucky, and we definitely appreciate the help of CB Mike. Yeah, it was great. The first album probably was the most funding we had for a record, and then that diminished as the albums went on. But we just play shows and put it towards the album and get them out as quick as possible.
Yeah, I'm a fan of CB Mike, but Akoa I know more so from being a former small business owner.
Right.
So it kind of stuck out to me for when I'm researching bands and albums. That's not usually where I see the funding come from, but I was like, oh, it only kind of makes sense that there would be a provision for that too. So the only reason I mention is just it's a little unique. That probably comes from the fact that you're also from Cape Breton. So
absolutely. I mean, Halifax, there's a lot of grants and stuff coming out of the Halifax region, and a lot of that funding tends to go out to Halifax bands and artists. And hey, I totally understand that, but Cape Breton, we're struggling a little bit there. There's a lot of musicians and acts here too that would apply for a ton of that. And with the pool for that being so small, I think CB Mike kind of had that in mind. Like, we need to help out some of the artists here too. So Akoa was really great to come to the table with them, and we definitely appreciate that.
And so, going back to the foundations of the band, then CB Mike wouldn't have existed when you first started.
Yep.
Oh, it was around then. Okay,
Yeah.
so you were kind of partnered up with them right off the bat? Like, did band form as a group of friends that were already playing together, or was there one particular person that started writing songs?
Well, there's a history there. Morgan and I played in a band before this band, and when that one kind of dissolved, we kind of looked at each other and said, let's do something else, just organic. And we contacted Dan, and I think Morgan probably knows more about the history. Like, Mike and Dan played in Rock Ranger together for with Jay Smith and amazing Cape Breton band, and so there's connections all through. Morgan's played with. I'll let him do some talking on this. But
yeah, I auditioned to play bass in Rock Ranger when I was in high school.
Oh, there you go.
I didn't make the cut, but I respected them for it. They made the right decision. Yeah. No, when we started this, we made a list. It was so dorky, but we had like a list of our 5 like favorite guitar players, like on the island, and we wanted to ask them to be in our band in descending order, starting with Dan Baldwin. We both grew up idolizing him as sort of a guitar hero and just music hero in general. And he and Mike played together in Rock Ranger for years, but also Mike was my jiu-jitsu instructor at one point. So before we were a rhythm section, he was beating me up for money. Yeah. So weird history.
The beauty of small town bands is that there's always those weird connections, because everybody has a day job and you end up knowing them in both lives.
Yeah.
When you're starting off anyway.
Yeah, for sure.
It's weird. It's like a small island, but then there's all these little tiny sub parts to it. So towns. So Justin grew up in Lewisburg and I grew up on the north side. And I remember the first time that I saw Justin, I was at the university, and there was like this just random kind of show at the Boardmore Theater. It's not usually a venue where people would play our kind of music. And a friend of mine was playing some songs, and a bunch of us went, and we knew everybody because everybody knew everybody except for Justin. None of us knew Justin because Lewisburg was just isolated enough that he was like the big fish in that small pond. And we were immediately like struck by him. Definitely on the drive home, like there was like a little like a musical back of the car crush thing going on about, did you hear his voice? Yeah, but he played this chord, and yeah, it was really neat. So I set my sights on being in a band with Justin shortly after that. Awesome. That sounds weird, but yeah, it's came from a place of love and admiration.
I didn't know that. Thanks. Yeah,
okay.
And so now I'm curious too. I'm aware of you mostly because you're also one of those bands that when you're out performing, I see your name pop up a lot. You're all over the place, and you're obviously playing with a lot of bands that I follow or that I'm friends with too. So I already know you're good people by the people you're associating with. But the music as well, like you had just said too, the type of music you play versus the venue that you were talking about. So I know, like I said, in 2017, there was a lot of these rock bands coming out. I did find that with the new wave of music coming to the East Coast, there was a lot of fusion of genres, and it's been quite consistently that way. But I have noticed, and it might just be me, I don't know, I have a little bit of different perspective because of the way I focus on this, but I've noticed the last year, maybe even less, maybe 6 months or so, there seems to be a resurgence of rock coming out of the East Coast. Not heavy metal and not folk. And I mean, that's all there and it's not being diluted. But there seems to be like a little slice of the pie opening up again for acts like yourself.
Yeah, like you said, in 2017, we really blazed the trail for other bands to start putting out records too. But we kind of decidedly were a rock band from the beginning. And while we all come from different backgrounds, well, I mean, Mike and Dan played in a band called Rock Ranger that was decidedly like straight down the line rock.
Yeah.
It's been really cool because for me, this is very selfish, but these guys all grew up with like a rock background, and I grew up with more like a Barry McNeil's kind of fiddle background.
Sure.
And then I got into like Rush and Yes and weird stuff because I was a band geek. And meanwhile, these guys know the entire history of AC/DC and Kiss and bands that now that I'm in my 40s, I realize are much cooler than what I was into. So when I joined the band, and to this day, when we're jamming, the guys will just start to play a riff and everyone will start to jam on it. And I'll get really excited and be like, oh, this is awesome. That's so cool. Is that a new song, Dan? And Dan will be like, that's Thunderstruck by AC/DC. So I got a rock education from these guys that I feel like has been really, really good for me. I've gone from playing many notes to playing one note a lot. And I feel like the songs are better for it, which is my impression of a rock bass player.
That's pretty wild. For me, I think hearing Morgan say that, for me, it's been like a more of a technical music education where I don't come from, any kind of musical background. I have no family members into that. And I still am not really familiar. I don't know scales. I don't know. And as a songwriter, just finding shapes on my guitar and piecing something together after being with these guys for so long, I'm starting to pick up on lingo and I'm learning so much as we go. And it's really just from being in a room with three, super talented guys that have patience for me and understand that I'm not on the same level. And it's been awesome for sure.
He says that, but he does like every week bring complete songs with like all the parts written and they're wild and good and interesting. He just might not necessarily know it's in C# minor, but that doesn't matter because who cares?
Fair.
I actually had that myself. I did have training, but when I was learning music theory and it got to the point where we had to be able to identify a note by the sound, I'm like, I am never going to learn that, and I dropped out. Disappointing, maybe in retrospect, maybe I could have learned it, but yeah, I kind of felt like at that point in my life, I was like, that seems like a natural talent type thing. Like I have no idea. Yeah, it kept me on the other side of the fence. And so nowadays I'm doing stuff like this instead of playing, right? But
yeah. We thank you for it.
No, this is great, Darcy. Yeah.
So now I know you had a live album out as well, but I'm curious with the latest album, did you have a sound change that was conscious at all, or you're pretty much just the same vibe with new songs?
Yeah, so the live record thing it's not a record. It was just something we did during the pandemic with Jamie that got released like on the airwaves, and we were lucky enough to get a few mixes to put a few singles on our Bandcamp and stuff.
Okay.
But the new record, I don't think anything really deviated too much, except for maybe the songwriting, I think, is a little tighter in terms of how we put them together. I think out of the three records, this one has all of our fingerprints on it, much more than the previous. Not to say like we all haven't been in the room and put these songs together, but this time everyone had a shot at throwing songs in the mix, and that to me was the most rewarding part about the record. I love when bands do that. I love when there's more people throwing in their ideas or their songs. I write lyrics for this band and usually melodies, but if someone has one, that gets me geeked out more than writing one myself. I would love to sing someone else's lyrics and melody. So now I think it's slowly working its way to where everyone's pitching songs more, and that excites me. Personally, to the moon. I get really geeked out on that. So, but the sound sonically, I think we finally found out who we are on this record. The last two were kind of, walking through the steps and figuring each other out and figuring what our sound actually was. And I find on this one, if you take a listen, that's probably what you're going to get if you come see us live. And I know that sounds kind of, the cliche thing to say, but I think we're finally there. And it takes a while to get there and feel comfortable about that.
I'm gonna back Justin up here. There's more to it than that. And here's why. Here's why this is the best record so far. Because we did the first record in a fancy studio. Like Justin said, we had the most money we ever put into a record. We did the typical thing, record like rhythm section live off the floor, then make some edits, punch in a part that could have been better, and sort of layer all the stuff. And then the next record, we had less dough, and we went to a smaller but equally fantastic studio, and we recorded the drums in the studio. And then I took the drum parts because this was like pandemic ish time. I did all of the bass in this room in my like house pants in GarageBand. So instead of me and Mike playing together, I was now trying to match everything that Mike already did. And I went insane, Darcy. There's a song on our record I did 100 takes of the bass part to a 3-minute song, and nobody can hear the difference between the first take and the last take. And so after like losing my mind over this and like complaining to the guys, Mike was like, the solution is simple. We're going to record all of the bass and drums and guitar live off the floor. We're going to do everything in the first or second take, and you're just going to have to be really better at pace and more rehearsed and ready to go, like a real musician. And so for this record, that's what we did. And every single song on the record is the first or second take. There's no edits. The bass and drums are all live together. And most of the guitar was done too, except for like solos were added later because Dan only has 2 arms and there's like 16 guitar tracks on some songs because it's a rock record. But I think that made the biggest difference. And that's why when you say, kind of maybe like a cliche thing, when what you see is what you get when you come see us, maybe that's more true now because we're actually able to pull that off at a level that I feel really good about. And like if we were to record one of our shows now, I think it'd be pretty badass. I think if you were to record one of our shows in 2017, it'd be cool, but the bass was probably pretty sloppy, and
for sure, I can get behind that. And just to say, like, I hear a lot of bands say, this record's our best one. I just don't want to say that and forget to mention that, working with Jamie Folds and working with Mark Scott and Ian Blurton, that was all fantastic. None of what I'm saying has to do with their work on those records, but
no.
This third record just is finally us.
We found our stride.
Sure.
The guys who recorded this, Albert Leone and Nathan Richards, are like 2 of my oldest and best friends from my first real band, a punk band called I Was a Spy. And so getting to do it, and in the studios in Albert's house, which is in the woods where there's no cell phone reception. So you have to be present. You have to go back in time to the 90s, and there's no laptops open. It was magical.
Fantastic.
So our kind of the hope is like, we'll write 10 more songs. I think we are halfway through that now. Yeah. And then we'll just go and plug in, and hopefully we can make it sound exactly like this, but with different songs,
Yeah.
So fingers crossed.
I would imagine kind of like you said, the way it was recorded different, where it was more closer to one shots. Like you almost had a live off the floor feel with the recording. It would even subconsciously give you more confidence the first few times you go hit the stage, and then once it's successful, it's just what it is. That you can do it.
I think there's also some weird like subconscious magic that I sound like I'm super high right now, but when you're in the room together and you're watching each other, and I'm literally like staring at like Mike's stick because I don't want to mess up this take, and if we slow down a bit or get a little heavy together, it happens in that moment. And you can't do that later. You can't be like, oh, at 1 minute and 38 seconds, I got a little faster. Like, well, fuck me. I'm sorry, I can't. Let's try that again.
Yeah, no, it all felt good, really good. And again, being with Albert and Nathan, being, really close friends, especially Morgan, growing up in bands together, it was just a great feel. And to be somewhere that where you're nestled in there. There's no cell service. There's nothing, no distractions at all. Just it was a great experience that I hope I would definitely sign up to do that again for sure.
And now I think the tour dates that I started seeing this year, like you popped up on a couple festivals, maybe. I know you were on at least one. But going forward, now that the album just came out, is there tour dates coming? Like, are you going to do a little album tour?
Right now, no, like heading into the winter and, being, a band of dads and all that other stuff that comes with it. I think we'll probably nestle in and do a couple shows on island, maybe Halifax, Moncton, East Coast type of stuff. And then maybe once the summer hits, we've applied to a bunch of festivals for this coming season. Cool. And hopefully that works out. And then hit the studio again. Really, I think that's kind of the plan, the goal. Yeah.
The band dad thing. We're we're all in our 40s. I have maybe the youngest kids of the group. I mean, Mike, our drummer's kids just went to university, so yeah, a disparity in ages there. But me and Mike and Dan have all toured coast to coast many times in our youth and sort of sowed our wild oats and stuff, and now we're old and lazy and have found a thing that works really good for us, which is just like making music with our best friends and putting it on vinyl every couple of years. So all the other stuff is kind of like gravy. And we have, I think, a pretty magical thing happening right now, where we're really happy where we're at. It would be cool to play more shows and get out more, but at the same time, like, we're taking it at a pretty slow pace because we did that in the past. And I don't know, this feels better.
You're pacing yourself so it's maintainable, it sounds like. So that's promising.
That's exactly what it is. And we could probably find a spot to play in Sydney every week, every weekend, or every second weekend. But again, being dads and jobs and all that stuff, and like wearing yourself out in one area is definitely not what we want to do either. So we're just taking it as it comes. Eventually, once the weather changes a bit, we'll hit the road a little bit here and there, take the one shots when we can, and continue on like that. It's a great way. Definitely at our kind of ages right now, and for what we want to do, it's working for us for sure.
Oh, Darcy, I learned how to do video editing over the pandemic because I'm just a nerd. I'm a lot of computer skills and weird background.
I can kind of relate with what I'm doing here now.
Yeah. So, okay. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So now we get free music videos, and we've started doing that too. And we can do that from here and put them out to the world, but we don't have to get in a van and drive for 16 hours. Yeah. So that's kind of been a fun thing we've got too. And another one that we're working on right now, off for this new record. And that's cool. That's like a fun new outlet for us. We didn't really do a lot of that previously.
Yeah, it's been great. Morgan's really taken the lead on that. And, we got to release two videos from this current album relatively quickly at really no cost, because Morgan's just doing his thing. And there's a cool story to them too. Morgan's found some really great footage. He had a really neat idea to use public domain, old films, and kind of mix and match live footage here and there. And it's been really cool to see, and it's awesome to see Morgan motivated. From my standpoint, like as a bass player, my God, he talked about Dan earlier being like a musical hero, and I know there's lots of talk from folks I talked to about the influence Morgan's had on the Sydney scene over the years, and now anytime this guy gets wound up, it's always a good thing. It always works for us. So
yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. Turns out if you want to make videos on the cheap, just find footage from 1924.
I don't see it used as often as you would think, since it is an available source of content. But yeah,
well, again, we're blazing trails. It's out there now.
There's one out there. I did see someone took a couple clips from for something that was a little weird, but there is a public domain Batman black and white like serial that you can get on video out there too if you look hard enough.
Nice.
It's pretty crazy. There's a lot of really dated stuff in it, but it's
Right
kind
on.
of fun if you're looking for some content for splicing into your edits.
Yeah.
Did you know that the original Joker and the old Batman used to just, instead of painting his mustache, he would just paint over it, or instead of shaving his mustache?
Yes,
just
yeah,
paint it
yeah.
white. Yeah.
That's the
I
first rock star.
I think
Yeah,
about
yeah.
that more than I should.
Yeah.
Like, what a power move. Like the first time they were like, so you're gonna shave that, right? Like, no, you're just gonna paint over it. The mustache
Yeah.
stays.
I think he just set a precedence for divas in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah, you are.
So you mentioned Bandcamp earlier, which I know there's your whole catalog's on there, and there's actually you have a bundle deal on there too, I believe.
Yeah.
So I mean, if anybody wants to throw you a few bucks or get some vinyl, it's a good place to go, and the MP3s are there.
Yeah, you can order the vinyl off of Bandcamp. All the albums are there.
For my first record, that, like, I'll say the guys, because okay, so these three guys are like hardcore vinyl heads, and I grew up with my father worked at the local radio station, which meant we had like a CD player before people knew what that was. So I grew up in this weird like technology is the best and the crackle is no good from the record. And these guys grew up with like, oh, the crackle reminds me of a warm coffee on a Sunday with my grandmother. So from the first record, it was very much like we have to do vinyl. And actually with this last one, we just didn't do CDs, which was kind of like a big decision for us. It's like, I don't know, we're contributing to the landfill either way, but I feel like the vinyl's more cherished,
Yeah, I'll give you that. I was gonna say I do have, like, if I had the camera turned a little bit, there's a ridiculous amount of CDs over here. And it slowed down for a while, but since I've been doing this, I have so many more that are sitting here autographed that are never going anywhere. They're always going to be here.
Well, we can burn you one.
Yeah, exactly. Burn it and sign it, and then I'll have a unique one.
Yeah,
there you go. So I imagine the videos are on YouTube. So if anybody's looking for you there, and these interviews and chats that I have are actually on multiple platforms. So if anybody's watching on YouTube, there will be a link in the description. Otherwise, really easy to find. Just type Fire Valley Fire into YouTube.
I was gonna say, yeah, that's a neat trick. Our search engine optimization move is just like come up with a seemingly meaningless, ridiculous, just 3 words, put them in quotes. We got it.
Well, it fits well together. It sounds like it's something, and then it's easy to find. There's a few artists that are easy to remember, but really hard to find because it's a common phrase or a common name.
There was a while where we used to get mixed up with, I think, a benefit or a fire that happened in a valley. I think we beat them out now. I think, we're coming up on top. So
there you go.
Pumping out that content.
We've made it.
Where should people follow you online to keep track of what's going on with tour dates and maybe new album developments?
Yeah, probably Instagram will be the one that's most active. Mike takes care of that, and he's really good too. Actually, Mike's our business guy in general. He takes care of all that stuff, and he's really good at it and stays on top of it. So yeah, for sure.
I'm pretty sure he's researching TikTok right now, so we can decide when that's ready for us to make the move.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna regret saying this because I'm gonna end up changing my mind in the near future. But I haven't used it in months. My followers are growing over there because as new followers come on, they go and look on the other platforms and it's there. But the people that I know that are using it, it does seem like you get a lot of views, but I haven't figured out yet how that relates. Like, I know if you have a lot of followers on Instagram versus YouTube, Instagram's always going to be a higher number. So I feel like I weight the YouTube subscribers a little higher when I'm trying to figure out analytics and whatnot. TikTok, I have not figured out how that balance, like how many people are actually digesting the content versus these are small clips that people are just cycling through.
It's really weird, man. There's so many different, our music is on all the things, but we have no idea. I mean, it's on things that we don't subscribe to or know how to access.
Mhm.
And I don't know. I mean, one time we got a check for 73 cents in the mail for royalties, and I'm not clear how the followers impacted that. But
It's awesome.
yeah, we're at a point now where we're not stressing too much about that level of things. It's more so we just put the music out everywhere and then go back to working on new music.
Yeah, it's a weird beast. I had a friend from the West Coast who's with Deer City Records tell me that, you know, it's really important that you do TikTok. Okay, well, we'll look into it. But he had all kinds of great stuff to say about it. And you know, I feel so unknowledgeable with all this stuff. But yeah, it's probably good to look into.
Yeah,
it's cool. 42. We're good.
Yeah.
We kicked out of it. Yeah, we're grandfathered out of TikTok completely.
Well, I'm actually keeping an eye on. I didn't see the information yet, but it's just a coincidence. It's not like, you know, I set that up almost like I was plugging it, but CB Mike actually offers some courses that you can take that I believe one of them is like a social media course that is based on the same course I took 2-3 years ago that taught me how to use Instagram stuff to do these things. So it was a foundational level, but it went a little bit above that, and it was enough to give me a footing for it. So I definitely recommend it to anyone that, especially anyone in the music industry that might also be a member of CB Mike, to keep an eye on those workplace courses coming out over the winter.
Yeah, I'm signing Mike up right now.
Yeah,
we'll get
absolutely.
Yeah,
I might even enroll again. You might see me going on there. Hey, remember me?
Thanks, man. Yeah.
Nice.
All right, so I'm going to roll out with a song too. And I mean, I could go pick one, and I usually end up with the latest single, but lately I've been getting the artist to pick one while we're doing the actual chat, and I've been surprised. It's not always what I think they would pick. So what song would you like for me to play out with for people that maybe this is the first time they've heard Fire Valley Fire?
You want to say it at the same time and see if we say the same one?
Oh.
Yeah, I'll do 1, 2, 3, and then we'll do okay.
Okay.
1, 2, 3.
Gives
Love
me life.
Yeah, let's go with Gives Me Life. Yeah, that makes more sense.
Gives Me Life.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, thanks guys for your time. I'm very excited that there's new material coming right off the heels of new material that's out now. But I will admit I have not actually seen a live performance from you guys yet. So I'm gonna have to keep an eye on those scarce winter dates.
You gotta make it happen. Come to Sydney.
I don't think I can wait until the summer. So I'm definitely gonna have to. I have a few Cape Breton friends now, and I was around a lot last year, and not at all this year. So
2 more now.
2 more.
Might be do a drive to Sydney before too long.
Let's do it.
Nice.
Great. Thanks again, guys, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Take care,
Thanks,
man.
Darcy.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Cool.
It sounds outrageous for it
Joe.